Hello and welcome to the Wednesday ITV7 Picks podcast, where me and Frankie Foster are back to go through all of the 7 races on the second day of Royal Ascot. And we'll be trying to find as many winners as possible for the ITV7 free-to-play game that sees all 7 races on the second day of the meeting in the game, with a £100,000 jackpot on offer. Frankie, day 2, Royal Ascot looks set to be a cracker, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I'd say it's probably one of the more trickier days to find a winner. Although I have sided with quite a few favourites, so I'd be hoping it's a favourite backers day. But there are some, as there are throughout the entire week, there are some massive fields and very, very competitive handicaps that we've got to try and sieve our way through. But yeah, every day is back to back, isn't it? I'm really looking forward to the Prince of Wales stake. I think that's the race of the day for me. And yeah, hopefully a couple more winners on the board.
Yeah, let's hope so. I think you bang on. The Group 1 is going to be fascinating with them at the top of the market. But like you say, the Royal Hunt Cup, 30 runners. It's like picking the lottery, isn't it, to go and win that. So that's what you've got to do to win the ITV7. Like we mentioned on our first show for Tuesday, we have a league, TWE's league. If you want to join it, the code is TWE ITV7. There's details, terms and conditions, all in the description below if you want to check that out. For anyone who finishes top of the leaderboard at the end of Royal Ascot, we'll be giving away a £250 first place prize. So worth getting involved there. And also, each day of the Royal meeting on ITV7, they're giving away up to £750,000 in jackpot prizes across the week, which would be absolutely lovely to win. But to do that, you've got to have 7 winners in a row on one day, and that's what we're going to try and do anyway on day 2. If we haven't already done it on day 1, Frankie, we don't know yet, do we?
Yeah, who knows? We could be jackpot winners already.
Well,
good job we're recording this ahead of time, otherwise I wouldn't turn up.
Nor me as well. Anyway, we're going to start then with the first race of the day on day 2, and it's the 2:30 Group 2 Queen Mary Stakes over 5 furlongs. This is one, Frankie, that we sort of touched on with how tough the Wednesday is. We don't know a lot about these horses. We've seen them once, some twice. A lot of them have come out and won. If they haven't, they've ran well. It's just which horse has the most progression, isn't it? You've got Born to Rock at the top of the market, 9-2. Beautiful Diamond, 5-1. Got to Love a Grey, 10s. Midnight Affair, 10s. Like that, it's such a tough market. I could go on all day because there's a lot of horses in there. But who did you come down on for the ITV7?
Yeah, it's a tricky one to get started, isn't it? I like to watch race replays for these and just try and get a good look at how they finished their race, how some of them quickened, what the final part of their race was like, especially over 5. You've got to have a bit of acceleration. The 2 that I liked were Born to Rock and Midnight Affair. I'm going to side with Midnight Affair just because she's had the 2 runs, and the second almost confirmed what we thought in the first, when she was unlucky at Newmarket because she was travelling so well, didn't get a clear run, and when she did actually quicken nicely, but couldn't quite reach the winner. And then following up at Beverley, wasn't it? And got a bit of a better run, was pulled out and did it nice and easy in the end, really. So I think she's confirmed her ability. She's got 2 runs. They both looked as good as each other. And she comes there with a decent chance.
Yeah, I think you bang on. And Midnight Affair was, I had 2 here that I was going to pick from. Midnight Affair was one of them, but I've gone with a different one just for the ITV7. It's a similar price, as at 10-1, but I think you're right about Midnight Affair. What she did against Soprano, and then how eye-catching that was at Newmarket. Then at Beverley last time, it was quite snug. I thought quite snug as she won. So, like you said, it's worth watching race replays to go and see how they did win. And then I did exactly the same for Midnight Affair, but Got to Love a Grey for Carl Burke is going to be my selection in the ITV7. But for similar reasons like you, this horse has been seen twice. We know a lot more about it. She's shown pace on both occasions in soft and on good ground. So the versatility is there. And what I really did like is when she bolted up on debut, you think, oh, how good was the field it was against? When she ran last time out of York in the listed Marygate Filly Stakes, that's a really good race. It's a race every season that we see a lot of good horses go into, and they come out and continually win. If you look back, who was second that day was Dorothy Lawrence, who's come out and ran well. And I think they thought that was a really, really nice horse. And Got to Love a Grey obviously went on to win by half a length at York. So, look, this is a really, really tough race, but I like what Got to Love a Grey has done so far. Carl Burke, I know he's got one near the top of the marking, Beautiful Diamond just ahead. But I would be going with this grey horse. Sam James rode her last time, obviously gets on well with her, and I think she's going to have another good chance. She doesn't knock pace at all. Stall 15, not bad at all. Next up at Royal Ascot then, sees the first big fielded handicap event of the day. It's the Kensington Palace Fillies handicap over a mile. Another competitive field. We could be saying it for every race, really. I think that's going to be the story of Wednesday. It's all about staying in there, really, isn't it, when it comes to having a bet? But at the top of the market, Tamarama for Rafe Beckett and Frankie Dettori at 6-1. Crystal Caprice, 15-2 for Ryan Moore and Sir Michael Stout. You won there 8-1, sorry, for Joseph O'Brien. Lady Eros 10-1, Indian Wish 12-1, and 12-1 bigger the rest. Frankie, I think you've gone for a Joseph O'Brien one, but I think we might have different ones. Who have you gone for?
I have, yeah. So we're hoping for a Joseph O'Brien winner, but yeah, maybe different ones. I have gone for your one there, but I want to give a mention to Far Too Shy if you want to have an inspired selection and maybe knock a few people out. She was ninth in this last year, I think, off of £7 higher, but it wasn't a miles away ninth, and looks like they've probably plotted this to come back and have another crack. So I'm not quite that brave, but maybe some viewers are. I've gone for you on there, who was just crucially unlucky in running last time out. Was travelling so well in a listed race, and we say this a lot, but this is one coming to Royal Ascot that looks well handicapped and is pretty unexposed, and I'm hoping that should be better than what we've seen, and will need obviously a clearer passage, but if she finishes her race as strong as how she was travelling, then I think she's got a great chance.
Yeah, James McDonald takes the ride, and he's a brilliant jockey to come over and ride at the Royal Meeting, because he's picked up some winners, hasn't he? A good international rider coming over. Like I mentioned, I've gone for a Joseph O'Brien one, but not the same one as you. Mine is Indian Wish, who's a bit heavier in the weight, top 9 stone 12, second highest in the handicap for this race. But I still think there's improvement to come. I think you see a lot of Royal Ascot group horses in handicaps. I'm very unsure whether this horse will turn out to be quite that, but I do think she's a very, very good horse. If you look at what she's done recently throughout her career, she moved over from France to O'Brien's Yard ahead of this season, and she's been seen twice for this trainer. She made a debut for the Yard over 7.5 furlongs at Tipperary. She finished just over a length behind the winner back that day off a mark of 97. She did finish fourth, but she ran really, really well. She was last seen at Go Run Park in the listed Victor McCalmont Memorial Stakes. She was a very impressive winner, I thought, that day. She's back into a handicap now of 102, so she got up £5 winning that listed event. If you're showing to me you can do it at a high level and you're dropping back into a handicap, I think it's definitely worth a go. So she's drawn a stall 21, which I don't mind that at all. So hopefully it's a Joseph O'Brien winner. It's just which one for us, Frankie. But yeah, similar thinking, just with two different horses for the same yard. One of the feature events on Wednesday afternoon is the Group 2 Duke of Cambridge Stakes for the fillies at Mares as well. And a horse we liked in this, I think, Frankie, that hasn't actually come is Laurel, which has left it a bit more wide open. When you've got Jumbly at the top of the market, 2-1, Prosperous Voyage 11-4. 9-1 Grand Dame, who hasn't been seen for a long time. Rome Millennium 10-1, Honey Girl 12-1, Queen Amanatu 14s, and then 20-1 bigger the rest. For a Group 2, personally, for me, when you're looking through the names in here, I don't think it's the strongest race in the world, which leaves it quite open. But then saying that, I think Jumbly at the top of the market could be very tough to beat. But who do you like?
Yeah, it is wide open. I'd go as far as saying I don't fancy anything. Especially now Laurel's not running. I think the winner will come from that race at the Curragh, either Jumbly or Honey Girl, who didn't perform that day but has actually put in some good performances previously. I'm going to side with Jumbly. That was her first start for Joseph O'Brien, and she pretty much had to come from last place and finished a strong finishing second. I always like to think, it's not always the case, of course, a trainer could get one bang on for their first start with them, but when a horse does move yards, I always like to think that there might still be a little bit of improvement after their first start for the yard, and that was her first start for Joseph O'Brien. So I'm hoping that Jumbly goes even better than we saw at the Curragh, and with a bit of a trip round, being a bit closer to the pace. If finishing just as strong, should maybe go one better. So we're hoping for a Joseph O'Brien double, quick fire double.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are all aboard the Joseph O'Brien train to Royal
It's going to be a good day
Ascot,
for him on Wednesday.
because I'm with you with Jumbly, and I think for very similar reasons. I just don't think this is a very strong race at all, and I think that you could pick a lot of holes in all of them. But
Mm.
for the reasons you said with Jumbly, obviously coming over from Harry and Roger Charlton, um, what I like to see from this horse was how well it ran in that race. And if that would have came out and win straight away, you're thinking, bloody hell, that's a really, really good horse, and they haven't had it long. So there's obviously going to be improvement, definitely from Joseph O'Brien's yard, because he knows that when you have a horse, when it comes to his yard, he might take a run or two just to get it bang on to see where they actually are. And he's a bit of a master when it comes to that. You've seen he's done it all over the world, and in all different countries. And I think he'll have a lot of winners at Royal Ascot, hopefully on the Wednesday. But we watched it after 10 months off. That was a good race in the Group 2 Landward Stud Stakes. So, yeah, I just think she's sure to improve, whereas others might not have as much improvement in them. And I think if you look at an anti-post stage, she's been back to back into 2-1 favourite now. And I think she could probably justify that. So, yeah, Jumbly for the both of us in that one then. Right, the big one we talked about at the top of the show on the Wednesday at Royal Ascot is the Group 1 Prince of Wales' Stakes over 1 mile, 2 furlongs. This race, even though it's only seen 6 runners actually hold up, it's still a quality field, and definitely one that's going to split opinions in the ITV7 for many. I think Adhiar is currently joint at the top of the market at 9-4 with Luxembourg, Baybridge in behind him at 4-1, My Prospero also 4-1, Mostadaf 25s, and Classic Causeway at 100-1. Frankie, a lot in here we've talked about over the last 2 years, winning Group 1s. Racing to a high level against each other as well, in some respects, a lot of them. So the decision you've got to make is the horse that beat it last time going to keep that form, or is they going to reverse it? And this is why I think it's one of the races of the day. But for the ITV7 in particular, you've got to get this one bang on, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. I mean, not to say that the winner can only come out the top 3, because there's loads of it in here that could win, of course, especially at Royal Ascot. Anything that's going there can win. But the top 3 are very hard to split, aren't they? They're all similar in some way, and they've raced against each other, and there's a bit of collateral form, and they are really hard to split. I'm gonna side with Luxembourg. I just think if you look at his performances over 10 furlongs and on good ground, he's consistent and he's very, very good. And he doesn't necessarily look too flashy when doing it, but he beats top class horses. You know, he's winner of the Irish Champion, he's winner of the Tattersalls Gold Cup. He's done what he needs to do, and I kind of think that form holds strong. So the top 3 are very hard to split, but from what I've seen from Luxembourg over the 10 furlongs in Group 1s, I think he can do it again.
You know, I think you bang on there about Luxembourg. He's not the most suave and classiest horse
No.
with the way he travels, but he's so gritty, so determined, and he gets the job done more times than not. He's a brilliant, brilliant horse. But for me, I've always had my heart with Baybridge, and I want him. I want him to come back and do it, and especially at Ascot, where he loves it around here. When you look, sometimes when you watch horses, not sure about you, Frankie, but there's always with me, there's one performance that just takes my breath away and goes, oh wow. And that was with Baybridge at Sandown. I think it was last year in the Brigadier Gerard Stakes. If you look how he pulled away from Mostadaf to win by 5 lengths that day, I just thought that was the sign of a seriously special horse. What he's done throughout his career has confirmed that, really. When he won, beating Adair and My Prospero by Eid, obviously in the Champion Stakes last season, that was a huge run. I know he was a big price that day, really, if you look at 10-1. But all the hype was about Baid, but he was the first horse to ever beat Baid. And I know it was a bit more juice in the ground that day, but he can do it when the ground's firm. So he's versatile, and like we were saying before, we just touched on it. We're obviously doing this ahead of time, and there's rain forecast, and we don't know how much rain's going to fall. So we're thinking there is a bit of rain going to fall, but we don't know how much that's going to change, because it's been very, very dry at Ascot for a long, long time. But back to Baybridge, what he's done this season. Obviously, he was third in the Prix-Gannet. That was on very soft ground, won by an absolute mudlover. And then last time out, he travelled like the best horse in the race against Luxembourg, got into a bit of a pocket, and by the time he got out, Luxembourg had made his move, and he just couldn't quite get up sides. I think if the races ran slightly differently and he gets a better run through, I think he can reverse the form with Luxembourg. But to even say that, that might not even be enough because Adiyar could go and win, or my Prospero
I
could go.
know it's so hard, isn't
So
it? It is so hard.
it's such a good race, and
I do agree. Luxembourg did nick a length or so, didn't he? And did make it hard work to catch him. Yeah, I mean,
it's so tough.
yeah.
I think from
That's what I don't know is if Baybridge did come upside him, would he find a little bit more and battle back? You know.
I think this is why it's fascinating because you just don't know what's going to happen. But I think probably from you're taking out the ITV7, and you're just looking on a price perspective as well. Baybridge at 4s and Luxembourg at 9s would probably make your mind up. But still, for me, I just think the way he travelled last time, Baybridge, hopefully he can go and get the job done.
Well, here's a prize for you. I took a match bet on Luxembourg in the pub the other day, so I've backed him at even money. So I hope he wins.
Right then, moving on to another very tricky event on the Wednesday, and it is the 30 runner Royal Hunt Cup. And there's many races throughout Royal Ascot that are very, very tricky from a punting perspective, and this is probably going to be in the top 2 or 3 for me. We've got Perotto, who's been heavily, heavily backed at the top of the market now for Roger Varian at 8-1. Garley at 10s for Syed Bin Saroy, who obviously won this for Real World group horse in a handicap. Reach for the Moon, dropping into a handicap. Astro King, who was unlucky that year with Real Worlds at 12s, and then it's 14-1 bigger the rest. I don't know how much you can say about this race, Frankie, because if anyone comes to you and says they've got a banker in this, they've got to be lying.
Yeah, I mean, you could list 5 or 6, can you? I think Sunny Liston's fascinating in a handicap. Astra King that you mentioned, a couple of pounds lower than when 4th last year and a pound higher than when 2nd the year before, has obvious chances, and another horse that has changed hands and actually performed quite well on debut for Daniel and Claire Kobler. So they're 2 of note, but I'm gonna go with Garley for Saeed Bin Saw and Asheen Murphy, a duo that are worth taking note of when Asheen rides for him, and he does like to have him ride his best chances. As you said, won this race with Real World, hasn't been seen for 235 days, but that might have kept his mark down slightly. And if you look at his performances after a break, I think it reads 2nd 1-1 if you're counting a 99-day break as a break. But either way, he hasn't ran poorly after a long break. Not to say that he's come out and been amazing, but off a marker 102 in a race like this, I think he could be beyond that, and is an attractive mark with, as like I said, Asheen and Saeed Bin Saw teaming up is always positive.
Yep, it's either going to be a really good day or a really bad day for me and you, Frankie, because Garley is my selection as well in this race for exactly the same reasons you said. And it's just that last bit of form with me. And I think Syed Bin Saroy, I think he's a very shrewd trainer. And definitely when it comes to Royal Ascot handicaps, if you look throughout his career, what he's done. But this horse, even though he's 7 years of age, he hasn't been raced all that often really throughout his career. And I think... I don't know whether he's had a setback or not, but I think he'd been held on for this regardless if he did have a little bit of a setback. And I think they've been waiting for this race. I've seen some quotes of him saying they've eyed this race up for a long, long time. So they obviously think off a marker 102, it's still lenient for what he can do. The bit of form that really, really got me was obviously last time out at Newmarket in October. He was running off £1 higher than what he ran off before for marker 93 when he won at York. But he took on King of Conquest. And King of Conquest, it's come out and been absolutely brilliant. We talked about King of Conquest on the day 1 preview, obviously going into the listed Wolferton Stakes. And King of Conquest, he was getting £9 that day. And Garley still went on to win by a length and a quarter. Obviously, he's gone up since then from a marker 94 to 102. But King Conquest, what he's done this season is show progression. And we're hoping that Garley can show very similar progression, having beaten him last time out. So, yeah, I think that form's really, really strong. Still a double figure price. And I just like, the trainer and jockey combination as well. So for very similar reasons, Frankie, let's hope that Garley can go and do the business. Right, the penultimate event on the ITV7 on day 2 at Royal Ascot is the Group 2 Queen's Vase over 1 mile 6 furlongs. And there seems to be a fairly strong favourite at the top of this market with Gregory. who was a winner at Goodwood last time out. Circle of Fire for the King and Sir Michael Stout at 6-1. Chess Piece 7-1 for Stephen Crisford. Peking Opera 8-1 for Aidan O'Brien, and 10-1 Bigger the Rest. Gregory looks really fascinating. If you look through his pedigree, he's got stamina in abundance, hasn't he?
Yep, I'm going to keep it simple. Stick with the favourite, Frankie Rides. He was really impressive at Goodwood. As you said, pedigree suggests that further will suit, and so did the way that he finished his race. He took a bit of time to get going, but once he did, he was really eating up ground at Goodwood. And off just 2 starts, he'll no doubt be an even more polished horse coming to Ascot, because there's definitely some improvement in him. He looks almost like a bit of a big baby in a way. So yeah, I think Gregory could be a really exciting horse going forwards, actually. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you again, keeping it simple. If you just look at through Gregory's pedigree, he's a half brother to Lionel that also won the listed Cocktail Stakes that he won at Goodwood. Also in his pedigree, he's related to a Group 1 winner over this trip and a Group 2 winner over 2 Mile 2. So if that doesn't say to me that he wants to go up in trip, which he's got here, I don't know what does. And you're right, the way he won at Goodwood last time, it just looked like the further he'd go, the better he'd be, because he even though it took some time to get him going, when he did, he just stayed and stayed and stayed. And if you've seen in a Queen's Vase before, horses come off the pace and nab you late because the line just never seems to come, and that'll be perfect. Absolutely suit him down to the ground. So Gregory, I think, like you said, you bang on. I think he's a big baby. He's only been seen twice. I just think the more he races, the further he goes, the better he'll be. I'd like to go and see him win this, and then I think he'll lay down a massive marker for the St. Ledger towards the end of the season, because I think this horse could be fairly good. And since its last run, I think it's changed hands now. So looking at it's called Watham Racing now. So this in different silks. So that might have been bought out, and they've obviously seen the potential that we're seeing as well. So Gregory, keep it simple, 15-8 favourite at the top of the market. Hopefully goes and gets the job done. Right, the final race at Ascot on day 2 for the ITV7 game is the listed Windsor Castle Stakes over 5 furlongs. This sees some very quick youngsters go to post, as always in this race. Frankie, it's another tricky one because, like we mentioned with the other sprint event, we've only seen some of these horses once, twice. We just don't know how good some of them are going to be against each other. So it is a tricky one, but finish off day 2 picks. Who are you going for?
Yeah, the ITV7, the way that ITV7 works is swaying me a little bit here. We don't have to take prices into consideration. I like both Barnwell Boy and Maximum Impact. Maximum Impact looks a bit more organised out of the two, and look quite straightforward actually when winning at Ascot, and will no doubt go on from that again. But Barnwell Boy, similar to what we were talking about with River Tiber, look to win impressively while still being a little bit green. Like, you can see the talents there, and he will need to be a bit more professional at Ascot to win a race like this, but there definitely is speed and talent there. So I'm hoping that he'll come on for that, and he will be a bit more professional, and can really show the talent, which I think is under the bonnet. So I'm going with the favourite. Whether or not I would from a betting perspective, I don't know, but we're just trying to find a winner here, aren't we?
Yeah, you're not wrong, and he was very impressive. Barnwell Boy, Ocean Murphy takes the ride for Charlie Johnston. I'm going for the other one you mentioned, Maximum Impact. I just thought, like you said, he was a much more together horse. We've seen him twice. We've seen more about him. What we've also seen from him, he's ran over course and distance. We've also seen he's got versatility. He's running on heavy ground and good ground. He's almost showing you everything you want to see in a 2-year-old for a race like this. This horse gives me less doubts than any other in the field, and for those reasons made it quite an easy selection to go for this, because regardless what does happen, on the evidence what we've seen so far, I think this horse should be shorter in price, and because it's 7-1, and even for the IT7 doesn't matter what price you take, just from a betting perspective anyway, I think this is the most solid runner in the field. I thought he made a mockery of Action Point last time out, and Action Point's a really nice horse, winning by over 2 lengths. I just think this horse has got the least doubts about it, and for that reason, Maximum Impact will be my selection for Kevin Stott and Alice Haynes. Frankie, that's day 2 done. 3 more to go. Like we mentioned on the other one, we'll have an ITV7 preview for the other 3 days as well. So make sure you subscribe to the Wiz and Closer channel so you get notified on when they have gone live. Also, we're going to mention, like we did at the top of the show, if you want to get involved in this year's completely free to enter ITV7 competition on the Wednesday, use the code TWE ITV7 to join our league with £250 up for grabs for whoever wins come the end of the week. And also, ITV7 are giving away up to £750,000 in jackpot prizes across the week. Like I said earlier, have a look at the T's and C's for more details in the description below on this show. Frankie, a tougher day, we think, on Wednesday, but hopefully we found some winners. Thanks for watching, everyone, and all the best wherever you're backing on day 2 of Royal Ascot 2023.